Howdy, Non here from Information Highwayman, and you are watching the Ace of Spades Friday website review. And this is the last review that you'll be watching in 2010 because, like a sane person, I'm taking a nice extended break over the holidays, and so I'm not going to be making any more until the new year. So you can pick it up again in 2011. But for today, we are looking at www.passivehousecentral.us. And I need to make a quick confession, which is that the person who has nominated this, Linda, she asked me to cut on it a bit, but then she decided that she actually wanted me to work on it some more on her money, and we've been working on that for the last couple of weeks. So I've got some fairly insightful things to say today compared to what I would normally be able to tell you, because of the fact that I know a lot more about the site than I know about the average one, which is nominated. So today, I decided to talk about the importance of knowing your audience, because there were some surprising discoveries that I made with the site after I'd actually talked to Linda about her audience. So let's have a look at the site itself. Here it is. Now, I've been using the OOD checklist in the past, the OOD, for orientation, objectives, and desirability. Now I've actually changed that to the food checklist, which suits me just fine because food is a big thing for me. So the F of the checklist is first impressions. And the first impression of the site is, I think that you'll probably agree, not terribly great. It's the sort of site that you look at it and you think, yeah, it's a little bit busy looking. The elements are weighted a bit haphazardly. There's a lot of white space and strange contrast going on. The design is obviously amateur, and that's okay sometimes. It's being created by an amateur, and I'm sure Linda will be laughing right now because she has that kind of sense of humor. She's not going to mind. However, you might expect that an amateur design like this will have a poor effect on the effectiveness of the site. The users won't like it. However, in this case, I'm going to say that it's not necessarily so, and the reason for this is, well, several. Firstly, the audience is highly qualified, which means that the people coming here know exactly what they are getting into when they arrive. It's not a site where you need to explain to them where they are and what they can do and why it's important that they do it. Rather, the people that are coming here already know that it's a community site. They've probably heard of it through word of mouth, and they already know what passive housing is. By the way, passive housing, if you don't know, which I didn't, is a way of building which calculates in advance the exact cost of the energy expenditure that you're going to be using and tries to minimize it. So it's a very scientific way of building. It's very eco-friendly. It's a good thing. Anyway, testing has shown that, and when I say testing, I'll have a little bit of talk about that at the end, but testing has shown that the people that are coming to this site are either architects or contractors, and in the case of the contractors, they're pretty computer illiterate because they're normally working on building stuff rather than sitting in front of a screen. And they actually like the whole, you'll notice the texture here on the Passive House Central header. They like those textures. They like these nice sort of earthy tones. It reminds them of the sort of stuff that they're familiar with. And generally speaking, they're very unconcerned about the fact that the design looks amateurish because they don't really have much of a baseline to compare it to. On the other hand, the architects are the second set of users for the site, and the architects, of course, are somewhat more, they're probably Apple users. We all know how Apple users are, yeah. And they like to see things in nice, clean lines, and they don't like to see textures and unclear design or amateur design lying around. And so they really, really hated the textures that were here before. If you thought this looked kind of nasty, for want of a better word, you should have seen it before, where in fact it made grown men weep and women swoon, and I only survive with my eyesight intact because I've got a little bit of Vulcan on my mother's side and my second eyelid flicked into place to protect my sight. Otherwise there would have been a lot of bleeding, it would have been all bad. Anyway, what you'll find is that for your own site, when you've got a better understanding of your users, you're much better able to predict how they're going to respond to various elements, various designs, various layouts, various copy, and all that kind of thing. And sometimes the way that they respond isn't what you would have expected, because a lot of the initial recommendations that I made for Linda, which are the kind of recommendations that I would make in any review that I do here for the Ace of Spades, they weren't completely off base, but rather they needed to be adjusted once I knew more about the audience that we were catering to. Okay, in terms of orientation, which is the O of the food checklist, again, because the prospects are qualified, you don't need to explain as much as you'd think you would need to explain. I would like to see a top navigation bar for telling us more about, say, Linda. It's not bad having an image here, that's certainly good, but it's good to be able to find out more about Linda herself and what is Passive House, which is currently sitting here. Upcoming events is also the sort of thing that you would probably expect not to be so much on the home page necessarily as in a tab along the top, and probably a contact as well. Contact is particularly important because of the fact that our users are fairly computer illiterate in many cases. It's really good to be able to give them a quick and easy opportunity to get in touch with Linda to find out something which they might not be able to find on the site themselves. One last thing which I really would want to say, and this is important for any site, is search. Especially when you've got a community site like this, which is kind of a hub for a large amount of information, you definitely want to have it searchable. And it's something which is currently not in place because of the fact that I suspect all of the community sites which it's linked to are actually separate websites rather than subdomains, or well, rather than sub areas of this site itself, rather than being in categories or anything. They're actually on separate domains, and that makes searching obviously very difficult. I suspect it could be set up, but it's probably going to be quite technically tricky. But you definitely do want to have search, because if you have a look at users as they come to your site, about 50% of them will have a glance at your navigation, and then they'll go straight to your search. If they don't see what they're looking for instantly, they'll just search for it. And that means that if you haven't got a search function on a site with a fair amount of information on it, you're going to be losing about 50% of your prospects straight up. They're just going to go, I don't care, I can't see where it is, I'm just going to leave. I'll go somewhere which has a search function where I can actually find it for myself. The second O of the food checklist is objectives. And in this case, you've got a lot of competing objectives because of the fact that it's a community site which is functioning as a hub, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. And what we've done is, in this case, we've arranged them into colors and categories so that they're much more clear to the eye, and that's fine. It might be a good idea at some point to have some kind of call to action down here which would allow you to click through to a website, click through to a page, I should say, that would have, say, a map of the whole community laid out so that people could click on those as well. That would probably be helpful for the contractors who aren't quite as familiar with using the web. Currently, you see this map at the top here. That's actually the kind of that's how the navigation was before, and the contractors actually really liked it because it was clear to them exactly what it meant, which is surprising to me because I would have thought that was unclear. Being a long-time web user, that's the kind of navigation that I'm not accustomed to, and so because I'm not accustomed to it, I thought, oh, that's kind of weird, we shouldn't use that. Having it in the header, though, is probably not a great idea because of the fact that it might be mistaken for navigation by people who aren't as computer savvy. So I'm going to suggest to Linda that we probably want to move that out. We could even put it on a separate page for the people that want to use it. The last, it's an acronym, but the last letter, that's the word I was looking for. The last letter on the food acronym is desirability, and again, because the prospects are qualified, you don't need to actually labor the point of the benefits that they're going to get on this website. They already know the value of the community, they already know basically what the site is for, and they're ready to click on links straight up. You don't need to spend a lot of time orienting them. We have actually spent a little bit more time doing that than was originally in the original design of the site. And I think that is important, especially for people, as the site gets more popular, you might find that a lot of community members are fairly new, and a lot of them are just joining the community, so it's always a good idea to have that kind of information available. But we don't need to labor the point. So, what does that mean for you? It means that you need to know your audience. It means that knowing your audience changes, in sometimes quite dramatic ways, how your website will work and the best ways to present information, to lay things out, and all that kind of thing. For example, if you were selling widgets, I like blue widgets. If you were selling blue widgets and you were selling to people who were business buyers who were already familiar with what blue widgets were for, already familiar with why they were important, you wouldn't necessarily tend to stress all of those benefits on your homepage or on your sales pages. Rather, you would stress the benefits of working with you. You would stress something like the ease with which you can order blue widgets from you, the support that you offer for blue widgets, how quickly you can get the blue widgets shipped to them, that kind of thing. Whereas if you were, say, catering to consumers who knew very little about blue widgets but were making some kind of an impulse buy, you would go into far more detail about the features and benefits of the widgets themselves, and you would talk about what they need to know about upkeep of the widgets and why having a widget is so great and what it will do for their lives, all that kind of thing. So your audience is extremely important in terms of your website. It might sound obvious, but you'd be surprised at how many people just A, don't do this, or B, just don't get it. Now, there is only a one way, and one way only, to know your audience, and that is to actually go out and find them. You cannot guess. Guessing will get you part of the way, but knowing will see dramatic improvements to how your site works. The only way that we knew about how the audience in this particular case responded was through asking them. It happens that Linda knows a lot of the community members because the Passive House community is pretty small right now. And so she went through and she asked them, she got them sat down in front of a computer, and she actually got them to use the website and see what they said. Doing the same thing for your website is very important. If you can find people who are customers and sit them down, ask them to do things on your website that you want them to do, that you want typical customers to do, and find out how they respond, how they react, what they say, what they have trouble with and what they don't have trouble with, you'll get invaluable information that will help you to fix problems and get much, much better leads and sales. So I've probably gone a little bit long. Let's wrap things up. If you have any questions, comments, or hate mail, and really I am still waiting for hate mail, people, email me, non@informationhighwayman.com. And if you would like to subscribe to the Ace of Spades, well, you're very welcome to. You won't be seeing anything until next year at this point, because today is the very last issue for 2010. But you are very welcome to sign up. It's free weekdaily emails which go through all sorts of marketing, business, strategy, especially for entrepreneurs and small businesses, advertising, copywriting, and all that kind of thing. Go to informationhighwayman.com/Ace of Spades. So enjoy your holiday. I sure will enjoy mine, and I will see you here in 2011.